there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rock and Roll podcast. Check out this record. My name is Mark, and with me, as always, my good buddy. Check out this Frank.
Hey, Mark. I'm happy to be here in this moment right now with you, my man. I'll say it again. I'm happy to be here in this moment with you, my good friend.
Listeners keeping score at home know that Frank's on drugs. Like go. My mother. No, wait, hold on.
Wait, hold on.
Keeping score at home, like my mother.
Your mother's not on drugs.
On Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and wherever else you find high quality premium podcasts. But when on earth, I don't know why I wrote this like that, but when on earth do these podcasts drop? You may be asking yourself.
And that's a great question, Mark. And I'm so happy that you asked. And brand new episodes drop for your listening pleasure. So be sure to check us out on YouTube. And while you're at it, hey, this is not the most produced show out there, but it's organic and you're going to watch it grow.
That's right.
As we grow.
That's right. We get rounder and rounder each week. So you'll want to tune in to see which one of us pops like a balloon first. Now, for our new listeners out there, welcome. You're locked into the podcast where Frank and I recommend albums to each other, pull classics out of dusty old bins, find hidden gems tucked in the back of dingy record stores, and give honest, sarcastic, and genuine reviews of those records. We have a wide variety of musical discussions, like our Spotlight series, where we'll dig into a band's catalog and see what comes out on the other side.
That's right. Or in our Versus series, where we pit two albums against each other and they duke it out for total stereo domination, which we need to do one of those soon, by the way.
Don't worry, buddy. I've got a few tricks up the old sleeverinos. Now, be sure to check us out on Instagram and our Facebook group, which we promise we will start using again soon. Frank drops a lot of random nonsense, and I've got all this musical goodness that you're going to want to hear. Now, this is really important. If you've got a record you want us to check out, just drop us a line wherever we find us. Frank checks the email, so you'll know you'll get a nice, positive review or response, not a review. And you might get a good review. It depends on what you write. While you're at it, subscribe and give us a review and a rating, because hey man, that's what this is all about. Tell your friends. So I'm going to say this, Frankie, how are you, my man?
Hey, Mark. I'm good. I'm really good. And you know what? Looking back at this album that we're going to talk about and this band, it's interesting and challenging, I think, to go back and try to recollect my thoughts as to where I was when I first heard of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. When this fifth album, Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magik, came out, I mean, so much was being thrown at us with these alternative bands and them, taking over really the radio at the time and MTV videos, by storm. All those MTV was jumping on all those videos. So for me, if I had to bet right now, I would say that seeing that Under the Bridge video, that's what introduced me to the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Mark, what say you?
I wouldn't be surprised if that's how they were introduced to me as well. However, when I was 12, my family took what I believe to be our last family vacation, and we went up to Massachusetts for the summer. And while we were staying with one of my mom's friends, I discovered this album in her son's CD collection. Now, this album happens to be Red Hot Chili Peppers' Blood, Sugar, Sex Magik. And I don't remember why they gave a 12-year-old a copy of that CD or really let me ransack that dude's CD collection. But I played the shit out of this thing over that summer. It reminds me of the 4th of July. It reminds me of fireworks over the Charles River right before the Boston Pops played. It was really cool. I just listened to this thing nonstop that entire summer. It was awesome. However, stylistically, I've moved on significantly from the funk rock thing. So revisiting this was a fun experience, but putting the nostalgia aside, I had to decide if it actually still held up, if I liked it, or if it's just that, if it's just nostalgia. So it's a tricky one, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, Mark, and those are some cool memories, and I'm glad you shared them for sure. And I
Thank
think
you.
you bring up a very very important aspect to kind of this whole thing that we do here. And frankly, it's difficult. It's very very difficult. So you have the nostalgia and the memory factor versus, let's be honest, the reality of it all when it comes to an album like this, and that's something you definitely have to sit and sort out. So Blood Sugar Sex Magic, this is their fifth album. I mean, that's a catalog and a half really before this monster of an album came out. I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to say I was familiar with those records from front to back, but we do see some heavier riffs that are gone and introduced as more melodic playing in the tunes that we're going to hear. Now, Rick Rubin, of course, is behind the controls here and gives that album that big and clean feel. But Mark, any of those previous albums or songs, did they stick out for you?
You're asking me about Yertle the Turtle, aren't you?
Oh, of course I am.
We're just kidding. Like I said, in my early teens, I was absolutely in love with the Chili Peppers. But as far as the albums previous to this one, I'm really only knowledgeable. My God, is my tongue tied tonight? About Mother's Milk. Thanks to what was their first hit, the cover of Stevie Wonder's Higher Ground.
Higher ground.
But in all honesty, I didn't get to that album until after I got to Blood Sugar Sex Magic. It was a weird time. It was their fourth album. The first album with John Frusciante, that is Mother's Milk, taking over on guitar after founding member Hillel Slovak died, and Chad Smith,
You mean Will Ferrell?
yeah, taking over on the drum after the subsequent departure of drummer Jack Irons. I don't think he OD'd. I think Jack just left.
Yeah.
The big change here being the guitar style of Frusciante. His influence would push the band to focus more on melody rather than rhythm, which had dominated the previous three albums. And that's, you throw any of those on and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. What's really noteworthy here is that the producer of Mother's Milk, Michael Beinhorn, favored heavier guitar tones and wanted to focus on overdubbing. Frusciante and Beinhorn would clash during the recording process, which is likely the reason to bring Rick Rubin in for the follow-up, allowing John to focus on that less heavy sound and more on melody. So that said, Mother's Milk was a gold record. It peaked at number 52 on the US Billboard Top 200. Pretty impressive for a record with just one hit really on it. And that would really set the band up for Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
Yeah, totally sets the tone. And now let's focus back to the album at hand, where we have Blood Sugar Sex Magic, which peaked at number 3 on the same US Billboard Top 200 chart. You get 17 big, funky, fresh tracks, which tucked among them were monster hits Under the Bridge, Give It Away, Suck My Kiss, and Breaking the Girl.
Frank, you want to know what I think is the coolest bit of trivia about this record?
Sure.
Yeah. So the band sought to record the album in an unconventional setting, right? Believing it would enhance their creative output. So Rick Rubin suggested the mansion of magician and escape artist Harry Houdini, to which the band agreed. The Peppers decided they would live at the mansion for the duration of the record, though, according to Anthony Kiedis, Smith was convinced that the location was haunted and refused to stay, which is really funny because at the end of Houdini's life, he spent a lot of his time trying to debunk psychics and prove that ghosts weren't real, which is pretty crazy. So Chad Smith disputes this. He said he just wanted to be at home with his wife. However, John Frusciante disagreed and said that there are definitely ghosts in the house, but they were, quote, very friendly. He'd go on to say, we have nothing but warm vibes and happiness everywhere we go in the house.
Wow. So, Mark, do you believe in ghosts?
Just the ones in my head, Frank.
Oh.
Why don't I? That's a joke about me. Why don't you kick us off with the first track from Blood Sugar Sex Magic with a K, The Power of Equality?
Yep. So right off the bat, track one, Power of Equality, we get this funky rock tune that's the showcase for really what the majority of the album is about. Listen, the message is clear. I don't think we need to go into that. So I want to keep it more on the music. You get a clean and chorus laden guitars, edgy rap style singing, a bass riff that really sticks out. I like Frusciante's playing here, and I'm not going to say this. I'm going to say this, I should say, a few times during the episode. But when I watched some of the live performances, the lightness, though, of the guitar is drowned out by the heavy and pronounced bass. So I think that something that might lose its edge once played live. For the song overall, I like it. I do wish they would try to do more with the chorus to make it memorable. There's a lot of focus here on the verses to make that stand out, but I would like more choruses and the chorus on this song to stand out. But that's the opening track, Power of Equality. What about track two, Mark?
Yeah, if you have to ask, Frank,
I
is
will.
the name of the song. So for all the hits on this record, you get a filler song. So that's pretty one for one. And then you get like half a deep track, like mathematically, you get like 0.5 of a song. This unfortunately is a filler song.
Already.
Yeah. Musically, this is a bit of what Frank just described as Power of Equality, right? We get the bass funking along, the guitar is clean, but tends to end up getting hidden behind the bass, and the drums are just kind of grooving along. Lyrically, I mean, if you have to ask, well, it's because, like me, you're pretty sure this song's really about nothing and it doesn't mean any damn thing, which is fine because most of his lyrics are either deeply personal or just total jibber jabber. It's just kind of a funky jam, but we get a pretty cool solo out of Frusciante towards the close of the song. What's not actually the close of the song, it's because they kind of like deconstruct and like each instrument kind of falls apart just so that they can do a transition into the next song, Breaking the Girl. Frank?
Right. So a song I'm sure most know out there, released as the fourth single from this album. I like the complex rhythm and the building up to hear the climax. After two funky rock songs, to me, this style is definitely welcomed. I really think the lyrics are strong and well thought out. We get a 12-string sound here too, which really helps thickens things up. And Mark, as we discussed, and you brought up, I think, a really cool point, this may be a blueprint for what's to come. And that's a good segue into your thoughts of the tune.
Yeah, and we'll get into this again when we talk about Under the Bridge. But here we have a song based around Anthony Kiedis' poetry and less about the band's original jam session when they were writing the album. And you can really feel the lyrics at the soul of the song, and that the band really understood what it meant. It's an interesting thing with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, right? When Anthony Kiedis writes something for himself, it tends to be like these really cute little or pretty poems. And when he writes for the band, he's trying to be big and loud. He's trying to display his ego, right? So what ends up happening is the band ends up writing better music for his lyrics than he writes lyrics for their music. And this is a great example of that. And I think this is what ends up getting duplicated in Under the Bridge. And later on, when we get to Californication, but so that's a little bit of that formula, that lighter where sound where that ends up getting louder and like they kind of do that waving motion in terms of loud, quiet and then loud, quiet and then loud, and back and forth, that kind of thing. But mixed in with kind of that Red Hot Chili Peppers sound. It's interesting though, because this is really where we see that the Red Hot Chili Peppers have kind of two signature sounds, and they blend together on this record because there's a good balance of funk to this kind of more soulful song. So it's interesting because usually it's easy to define a band's periods. Here we see, really the beginning or the end of that funk period and the beginning of that modern Red Hot Chili Peppers. If you take out the Dave Navarro hunk of shit 1 Hot Minute, and you look at their career without that, you really see this arc much better because that thing's just a speed bump. So to what Frank said, yes, this is a classic. It's one of the better songs on the record. It totally has real emotion to it. The band is really on point here, and it's too bad that they beat this to death in Californication and thereon. But
Yeah, and it's funny, it's funny you mentioned David Navarro real quick because I was thinking about him as you were talking about Frusciante, and when I was looking at live performances too, I just turned on but Navarro, and just such a it did match. Nothing meshed well there at all. He was not the right guitarist for that sound at all, and it was just interesting.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that
we get
Aeroplane song is kind of cool, but like
yeah.
that's one song on the record, and really, it's not that cool.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And him playing the old songs, it didn't work because it's
Mm,
so signature to Frusciante.
yeah.
Anyway, Funky Monks is track 4. There's an interview with Frusciante and Kiedis, and the person's asking them, I want to say it's in the UK, I can't remember off the top of my head, but about the length of the album and telling them that he didn't like this song. They got legit offended, and Frusciante especially saying that he needs to listen to it again because they put their heart into it. So that means it's good. Well, here's the thing. Everyone registers these things, especially music, differently. I think it's totally more than acceptable when someone interviewing them say he may not like and dig this song. When a song enters his brain and it's going to affect our cognitive understanding and overall feeling differently. It's just gonna be different for everyone, different for you, Mark, different for me, and so forth. There may be a particular thing in the song that just didn't evoke emotion, therefore not resonating. My point is, in essence, I agree with the interviewer. The song to me is completely boring. It's like a drive across Florida's Alligator Alley going at a steady 60.
Ugh. Track 5, Suck My Kiss.
Ooh, Mark.
Yeah, I finally get to be offended, Frank. Not really. I mean, as far as this era of Chili Peppers, this is what people expected. If anything, this is a less spicy Chili Pepper than what they had previously known up to Suck My Kiss, because we haven't really talked about sex much, and those previous albums were fucking sex laden. But yeah, this is kind of Anthony Kiedis was and probably still is a sex addict. So there's not a ton of surprise here. He was very open about it. He was openly trying to deal with it. And it made him a ton of fucking money. But people knew what this was. It was very much the name of this record. It was very much what was going on. And this was a huge hit. Flea's bass is funky. Chad is just driving this with those drums all the way through. Just really cool track. I dig it. It still holds up for me, this particular song, there is that weird guitar solo that sounds like he's playing it through a trash can, and that's just kind of meh to me. Like, it just sounds kind of it sounds like garbage, that guitar solo. But the rest of the songs, it's kind of cool. I don't know. The more I'm thinking about it, the less I like
it. So, as Mark said, this is the Sex and the Blood Sugar Sex Magik title. It permeates of that vibe. I'd like the heavy vibe during the verses of the guitar and the bass, and there is more melody in this song during the verses, which it's why it's a single and why it stands out. It's been a while since I'd listened to it, so I did though enjoy it going back and listening to it. So for me, this was a track that I dug.
Nice. I Could Have Lied is the name of the next track. We're kind of back to that poetry of funk thing. This really, to me, if you had made this a 30-second interlude where it's just kind of him doing these lyrics over that opening guitar part, this song would have been amazing. It's just a little strange because the song never really picks up. It just kind of continues for like 2.5 minutes, and you're like, dude, what the fuck, do something. And it just doesn't. It works in a way, but it's at 4 minutes, it's just a bit too bloated for what should be just this simple, poignant little piece. They just, yeah.
Sometimes simplicity reigns supreme, right? I mean, So we have mellow, slinky, and B major. This is a mellow tune, and guess what? B major. And again, has a signature sound of the funk rap rock. The high point of the song is the guitar work. Again, great tones and solo. The low point, it's the rest of it. I hate to be that person, but I was personally just waiting for the song to end.
Yeah. Track 8, The Righteous and the Wicked. I'm surprised this one wasn't a single as well. It's got a good funk to it, and the bass and guitar are actually really well balanced sonically. You can hear them both really clearly. Compared to those other funk songs where we talked about earlier, you get the point. The shared chorus between Frusciante and Anthony Kiedis sounds really cool where you have Frusciante singing one part and then Kiedis coming in almost the next line later. It's a really cool effect. It really works. I think this could have been a great single, positive message for a song overall. In that 91, 92 era, I don't know why this wouldn't have worked as a single, but it is what it is. One of those, like I said, the gems in the track that are just kind of tucked away. This to me is one of those. And I think you may agree with me on this, Frank. When it comes to subject matter, the opening track, which name is completely skipping here.
The Power of Equality.
The Power of Equality. Thank you. Thematically, these two are pretty similar. I think The Righteous and the Wicked does a better job of being a song and less of being kind of like a white guy protest song about equality. I know you didn't really want to speak on it, but that was my opinion. So.
And what you're trying to say is The Righteous and the Wicked does a better job of really universally getting that out. So.
Correct. Yes, that's what I was trying to say.
Sure. Said it to me. I got and I understood it. See. Next, we got "Give It Away." I mean, this was the lead single written by Flea and Frusciante as a jam session. This song was everywhere. I liked it then. I still do. Much like the big singles from this album, it suffers from being overplayed. However, it shows that the band can do these style songs and have them stick out from the rest of the pack to become really memorable, which begs the question, why wasn't this happening more?
Yeah, I still think this is a really cool track. Kiedis said that he wrote these lyrics because of the lifestyle he was living, which was to just like throw out his possessions and literally just give his stuff away. It makes you wonder if he was off heroin at this point since he didn't sell it all for smack. Anyways, I love that kind of, there's that backwards guitar solo.
Yes.
It's super fucking cool. It's probably the best solo on the album, which is kind of weird because it's backwards. Please revisit our episode where we did our top 10 on Weird Al and revisit his rendition of this song, Yabba Dabba Do Now.
So good.
It's so good. But no, I'm with you on this one. It still holds up. It's still, the defining track of this early period Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's super cool. It still sounds great. I think this is probably the reason Flea has the bass player status that he does, because he's just so damn good.
Good point.
This to me is one of the high points truly in their career, and it's doing a lot of lifting for the rest of this record.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And track 10, we get the title track, Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic. So again, more of the sex aspect here. Again, there's a build up to musically, there's a build up to a climax here on the chorus. The heavy riff, the really heavy riff. It gets almost into that grungy alternative sound that was the thing then. So I'm glad to see that mashup of what was going on at that time into their style. This song to me stands out as it's not just one of their run-of-the-mill branded funky rock songs. So listening to this loud, I enjoyed it, my man.
Yeah, I'm just going to comment on that real quick before we get into Under the Bridge. I agree with you. This is, again, one of those ones. There's some really great gems hidden on this record, and surprisingly, Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic is among them.
Yeah.
So we get to easily one of their biggest songs, and again, one of the tent poles of this album, just doing a ton of lifting here. Under the Bridge, track 11. There's kind of a cool story. I'm sure most people know this about Rick Rubin finding this poem Anthony Kiedis wrote during the recording sessions, but was too embarrassed to show it to the rest of the band. Rubin then made him sing it to the band. I mean, chances are he probably just like read it to them, but I love that like all the research says that he made him sing it. Anyways, the band loved it and they started working on it the next day. And, like as they say, the rest is history. The song fucking rules.
Yeah. I mean, what else can be said that hasn't been said about the song? It's a legendary guitar intro, legendary song in general, legendary video. This is, I would say, if I had to bet money on, this is the song that they're best known for. Again, at times it got suffered for being overplayed. It's a classic. It holds up. You go to any guitar teacher, it's gonna be in their top 5 songs that they teach you in the beginning, as far as their chord progression goes. Yeah, a lot of people are are really into this song from a guitar standpoint because they love that intro and love the tone. It's classic. It holds up. It's good. Um, 12 is Naked in the Rain, Mark. Naked in
Mm,
the Rain. Yeah,
I'm naked
talking
right
about
now,
their.
Frank.
Ooh.
Our viewers on YouTube know that I'm naked right now. Our listeners listen to the podcast that don't know that I'm like fully nude, covered in whipped cream right now.
That's right.
You'll have to tune in to find out.
Totally talking about their connection with nature here. Although it's funky, we do get some distortion in the guitars that gives it that edge and in a noisy rock type of way. It's steady paced for the 4.5 minutes, which almost seems like what this song the intent was. Maybe for more jamming purposes. Maybe that's why I'm trying to say is why it gets to that point. I do like it more than some of the previous non-single tracks I talked about thus far. So Naked in the Rain was definitely not a bad track.
Nice. At track 13, Apache Rose Peacock.
Peacock.
If you're wondering what I hate most about this song, let me help you out. Part of it is the stupid lyrics with matching dumbass rhyme scheme. I wonder if he knows that the peacock with the bright colors are the dudes of peacocks, or if this is a real chick. Then I wonder if she knows this little peacock detail. I don't know. I don't know why a woman would name herself that without being transgender. That doesn't really make sense to me. Although they do suggest that perhaps a little bit at the end, but who knows? You know, musically, we're back to that funky bass, the drums that kind of drowned out the guitar, that kind of drowned out the bass. We've heard so many times on this record already. Frusciante gets heavy with the guitar tone here at the end of the song, almost because he's trying to look for something else to do. I don't know. It just does this weird change at the end. It doesn't make sense. I know it sounds like he hated having to be there on this song, and I hated listening to it. So I don't know. The end of that song really throws me off. Lyrically, it's just a weird thing about his ego and banging chicks. So it just kind of, it's a creepy song. I'm trying to be forgiving because he's open about his issues and doing his best to be a good dude about it, considering his illness. But it's just difficult sometimes to put up with it this much. That's how I feel about the song Apache Rose Peacock, Frank.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean you have to like the song, even though
Right.
they may you may be forgiving because we intake the music, and if it doesn't
And
sound
this
good, it
record is
doesn't.
so goddamn long at this point already.
Yeah, absolutely. So track 14,
Mhm.
the greeting song. In Kiedis' autobiography, he says he hates this song, the lyrics,
Me
and
too.
the overall vocals he doesn't like. I mean, I don't disagree here. Perfect example of overstuffing an album. This track could have totally been left off and not shown the light of day, and it would have been fine with me, and I'm sure everyone out there. So,
Mhm.
the greeting song, Mark.
Yeah, track 15, My Lovely Man. Fuck this dude and his shit fucking rhyme schemes. Seriously, this track is supposed to be about, a tribute to Hillel Slovak, the previous guitar player who died of a heroin overdose. It just doesn't have any heart. It feels very, very forced. I don't feel like he wanted to write this song. I like the drive and the aggression this song carries musically, which is weird for a song about your friend who died of a heroin overdose. But I didn't know him. I guess you did. And but maybe that's like a tribute to his sound and his style, even though those previous records with him are much funkier than this kind of heavier sound. This thing is just so chocked with that terrible rhyme scheme, excuse me, that it's just so hard to understand what it is he's trying to reminisce, other than saying that he was a lovely man. I just like, oh, he was a lovely man. Sounds like something you say about somebody you were told that you knew, or like an uncle who died that you hadn't seen in 25 years. Yeah, he was a lovely man. I don't like it, and on top of that, the song's otherwise pretty forgettable. And I feel like for somebody who was such a major part of his life, this is a terrible tribute.
Yeah. Two words that are rating consistent here is thus far is pretty forgettable, right?
Mm.
So track 16, Sir, Psycho, Sexy. Okay, so in this alternate track lottery, Mark, I drew the 8-minute song. Man. All right. At this point in the album, I don't think this makes an impact, and I personally don't see many true music fans or Chili Pepper fans being like, "Oh yeah, today I think I want to listen to Sir Psycho-Sexy." I could be wrong. I mean, tell me if you're wrong. That's cool. I got thick skin. But man, this does nothing for me. I'm not gonna get into the content. We all could figure out what that's about, of course. Kiedis and his sexual addictions there. I don't even think I blinked once during these 8 minutes. I mean, it keeps with that sex theme, but I'm immune to any impact by this song at all, forever
Yeah.
and ever.
You know,
Blah.
real quick, what I think this song is supposed to be, right? Obviously, the character for Psychosexy is simply his ego personified, right?
Correct.
But musically, this song is a tribute to Parliament Funkadelic, to those great funk bands of the '70s that kind of really did these over the top numbers in a very heavy, funky way. And this song, the only credit it gets, because everything is wrong with it from its length too, but musically, if you get a 2-minute chunk of that funk riff, that's what it's supposed to be. It murdered Frank because it's 8 minutes long and just way too unnecessary with the lyrics. Sorry.
My insides were done after all that.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in on that.
Oh no, thank you. Please, thank you.
Yeah. So track 17, and thank God the final track. This record's an hour and 17 minutes.
Oh my God.
They're red hot, and
they're red hot.
On the flip side of Frank's lottery loss, I got the 1-minute joke song. It was originally written by the legend Robert Johnson, and I think it's cool that they did a Robert Johnson number.
Sure.
However, I just wish it hadn't been this track. It's not that like it shouldn't have been this track. It's kind of clear they picked it for the name, but like whatever. It's about a tall girl selling hot tamales. It's done in the Dixieland shuffle, and it's a minute neither you or I will ever get back. So they're red hot. It's kind of that joke ending to an album for some reason. I mean, hey, look, this song was all about having, or this album is supposed to be about having fun. Why not end it with a little joke? So that wraps up the old track by track.
Yeah.
Frank, you want to give our listeners your final thoughts on Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic with a K, and on the whole, and what your rating for this bad mamma jamma would be.
So, Mark, I thought long and hard about this, and like I said before, you really brought up a tough thing to do, which is separate where we were in life feeling versus is this actually good. Now, I have said time and time again that I am not just the singles or hits type of guy when it comes to a band, but right here and right now, we are going to see that I stand corrected. That's right. I feel for this band that I am and able to enjoy the hits and the singles. That's what I feel, I think, about this band. I struggled getting into the rest of the album. Was it the length? Perhaps. Was it the fact that the majority of the songs had a similar vibe? Perhaps. Am I saying that these songs are like subpar? Not at all. They just left me wanting more, actually wanting more of the sound that I heard in the singles. Now, there are some prototypes here that would eventually become their sound in years to come, and that's a subject for another conversation. But for me, this album, I feel you have a mix of classic and legendary tunes that have aged well to be mixed with some funky rock tunes that are kind of fun and then full of great musicianship, and then some unmemorable tunes that just should have never been on the album. Absolutely not. So listen, as a whole, I give this thing a 6 or a 7, which I'll probably get destroyed for doing, but that's my ranking on it. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I'm with you on this one, dude. Hard 6. Fuck people who think otherwise. The hits are good to great. Give It Away and Under the Bridge is really leading that charge of just how good the Red Hot Chili Peppers can be. However, there is so much filler here that it's no surprise that this is considered one of the best albums of the 90s, because mainstream and alternative rock was rife with albums that only had 3 or 4 singles, which were the good songs, 2 which were maybe really good, and the rest of the album was shit. This is that personified. If you doubt my theory, honestly look back at Smashing Pumpkins' Melancholy Infinite Sadness, because Billy Corgan can go fuck himself. That album sucks. It's a double album full of filler. And this is the exact same thing. There's a ton of filler, couple great songs, and then the rest is just who could care. It just didn't hold up for me, Frank. You know, it's weird because I put that nostalgia aside. Although I will tell you that first re-listen, I was on a nostalgia high. I was into it. I was having a great time, and then I sat down with a pad and a piece of paper, and I was listening.
Reality came in, huh?
And you're just like, oh man. It does sound great loud as fuck, though. You were right.
It does. Yeah. Some tunes, absolutely. And Mark, was it you that mentioned about Flea wanting to play less on this album?
Yeah, it's one of the wildest things about this record is that Flea was quoted as saying he realized during the recording process that this album was different from the band's previous work, and that he needed to play less notes. He just needed to not play so damn much. He found that by playing less, it left more room for the rest of the band and the songs to grow around him. A wild concept when you consider people only think of him as the funkiest bass thumping dude of his generation, which is probably fair, and that this is their seminal work. I don't think most people know how funky and how overdriven his bass was on those early records. As you can tell, it's impossible to talk about the music of the Red Hot Chili Peppers and not talk about Flea and his importance, or his impact, on their music, and countless bass players who were inspired by his playing. So Frank and I thought we'd talk about, man, reading is fun tonight. So Frank and I thought we'd talk about some of the really awesome bass players that have inspired us with their playing over the years. For this purpose, we're sparing we're spreading the love all around, and we'll leave Flea off the list. Although for me, he was an influence when it came to me learning how to start playing music. I really dug what he did. So Frank, why don't you kick us off the official check out this bass player top 10 list?
Yeah, absolutely. And, Flea also definitely am not going to doubt any of the influence, or even as a guitar player from Frusciante as well. I think they really are phenomenal musicians. I'm not taking that away. But we did do our top 10 bass player list here. A lot of these are probably common names that everyone would have on their list, and there's going to be some Marc and Frank sprinkled in these. Mine aren't in a particular order, but I'm going to say this: once Marc gets to number 1, it's unanimous as far as a favorite, and what we feel is probably one of the best out there. But anyway, my first one, and we'll alternate, is Lee Rocker from the Stray Cats. This is the first guy I really saw play the stand-up bass to where I noticed the power of the slap bass. I love that sound and what it does. And Rocker really is a force in the rockabilly world. That's hard to do. Lee Rocker from the Stray Cats to me is on my list.
What a great name,
Lee Rocker.
Yeah. So my first pick here, Donald Duck Dunn.
Love him.
This is a selfish pick. Triple D, as Frank and I know him, is famous for smoking a pipe and being a bass player in the Blues Brother, and of course Saturday Night Live. Jeepers, I really can't read tonight. Look, this dude was a straight up blues bass player. It could be easy to dismiss him as just another session player, but he really held it down. Great dude. That he's done a lot of work in a bunch of different blues bands. Great dude. And if I may quote him real quick, if the shit fits, wear it. Frank?
And I mean, just everything that he did in the Blues Brothers too was just fantastic. And of course, playing with the pipe in his mouth the whole time, he was awesome. Donald Duck Dunn, and his name was Donald Duck Dunn. I mean, that's it.
Triple D, baby.
That's it. All right. Next on my list is Cliff Burton, Metallica. Check out our Metallica episode for more on Burton. He was a driving force into what Metallica was doing. He introduced the band really to musical theory and classical style, and what you eventually heard in tracks like Fade to Black, um, Welcome Home, Sanitarium, and of course after his death, One. I don't think the band emotionally has ever and will ever get over a loss like that. The guy was just absolutely fantastic. Used reverb and distortion when he played too. The guy was just awesome. So Cliff Burton, Metallica.
Yeah, I think James said that he got them into everything from Bach to the Misfits. Like, how fucking cool is that?
That's amazing.
Yeah, Cliff Burton's a legend. One of my next pick is going to be Timothy Comerford. I'm sure a lot of people are gonna who tell me I'm fucking nuts for picking Tim Comerford over the dude from Rush. I fuck that guy. Timmy, because I don't feel like saying his full name, was the bass player for Rage Against the Machine and that shitty band Audio Slave. But nevertheless, he was instrumental in creating that fat rhythm sections that allowed Tom Morello to turn his guitar into a DJ turntable and shit. Pretty cool. But he really used his bass to play the melody and choruses of songs so that the guitar could go do whatever he wanted. He really held it down. Tim and Brad Wilkes, the drummer, are one of the most underrated rhythm sections in rock and roll and heavy metal, just because they were so constant, so clean, so determined. The bass never quit. He drove a ton with it. The dude's super underrated. Even the Audio Slave stuff, he's good. It's a bitch from Soundgarden I hate.
Great. I mean, they sound great live together, and those songs are not easy to duplicate at all live. So, number 3, we spoke about him last episode, Sir Paul McCartney. Listen, he's a great musician. He has the natural ability to pick up any instrument and play it at a high level, and his bass playing obviously was no different at all. So again, Paul McCartney, he's on my list.
Yeah, the king of keeping it simple and steady. Paul's awesome.
That's it.
Absolutely awesome. A similar guy to Paul, but a little bit more flamboyant. My next choice is Bootsy Collins.
Bootsy Collins.
This dude partied so hard that James Brown kicked him out of his band, and then took the bass he gave him back. He then would go on to join the Parliament Funkadelic and push the possibilities of what a bass player could add to music. Dude is truly a legend. He's a phenomenal bass player. His solo records are actually really cool. They're a little out there, but they're totally fun. He's just an absolute legend. And if you ever get a chance to see him live, which I have, do it because it's fucking unbelievable.
Yeah, the basses he he plays are just they're so over the top. They're so awesome.
All custom made star basses. Those things are cool, man.
Yeah, those are pretty awesome. Next on my list is Les Claypool. Listen, I'm not the biggest Primus fan, nor do I know the most about him other than he's a freak of nature with that bass. I mean, I've watched many video clips of him just wailing away on that thing. I mean, the man's abilities are really that of someone not from planet Earth, and what he's able to do with that. We'll probably need to do a deeper dive into Primus. I get it, everyone, but Les Claypool is a freak with that bass.
We totally can do that. And did we talk about I know that we talked about him trying out for Metallica.
Yeah.
Did I tell you about him growing up with Kirk Hammett, like on the same street?
Oh yeah. Wait, I think, did we go through that?
I think I may have mentioned that. I mean, just could you imagine you live on that street and everybody's out playing football, but Les Claypool and Kirk Hammett are like in their living room jamming? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And even Metallica's like, listen, Les, you got to do your own thing. We can't,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. James can't do drugs like that anymore is the problem. I don't know if he ever could do drugs like that. Anyways, speaking of doing drugs, at number 2, a personal hero of mine for other reasons, Lemmy Kilmister, one of rock and roll's most underrated songwriters and bass players. Lemmy blurred the lines between rock and roll, heavy metal, and punk rock, making it cool as fuck to listen to all three. Pull up some live footage and watch him hold it the fuck down. He took playing super seriously, and whenever getting on stage with other bands, he would plug in with them and play along and sing because he was an awesome bass player and he held those lines down. I know Ace of Spades totally rules, but check out some of those early aughts albums because they secretly fucking rule, and they shouldn't. It doesn't need to be a secret anymore. All Motorhead kicks ass, but those 2000 records that they put out, the backhand right before he passed away, there's some really cool shit in there. Totally worth seeing. Follow me on Instagram because I'm constantly just posting it. If you want to, you don't have to. It's fine. I don't know. I think that's all I got to say about Lemmy.
Yeah, beautiful.
I miss you, buddy.
It's all about the game and how you play it, man.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah. So number one on my list, but not number one for me, but it's just how I happened to have the list was is Peanut. So Aaron Peanut Willis from 311. I used to
debate. Christian name, right?
Yeah, there you go. I used to debate a lot with friends, saying that Peanut was better than Flea. Both had this funk slap style going on. But what I thought Peanut was able to do is go outside that box and be a little bit more diverse with his playing. His playing, listen, is really remarkable on 311's first two albums, Music and Grassroots, excuse me. And on a side note, I think if you want some funk rock with more diverse sounds, edge, and great songwriting, because we've been talking about funk rock right throughout this episode, check out those first two albums. They may fill up your soul maybe a little bit more than the barren sound from the Chili Peppers. So that was number one on my list, but not my real number one because Mark has the number one for us all. Go ahead, pal.
I love that super quiet dig at the Chili Peppers, dude. That was amazing. So number one, Frank and I agreed unanimously. We talked, we sat down and had a conversation about this.
We did.
Matt Freeman of Rancid. Yeah, that's
hands
right.
Down.
A Punk at number one. Yeah, fuck yeah. Matt Freeman fucking rules. Put on Rancid 2000 and let him melt your fucking face with the way he blisters up and down the fretboard and keeps the whole album rocketing down your ear hole like a Tokyo bullet train. Fucking dude rules. No bullshit fills or filler, just blistering, amazing bass. It's not just about speed. The notes are right. The solos are insane. The tone is perfect. I'm stuttering. I'm so just like worked up about Matt Freeman. I was listening to Rancid 2000 before we did this and I confirmed everything I just said. This thing, he totally rules. If I were to learn how to play bass, I don't know about you, Frank, I'd pick up that Matt Freeman signature bass.
Oh yeah, totally. And Rancid 2000, as if you listen to our Rancid episode, you would know that that's my favorite Rancid episode album. Anyway, when I first got into Rancid and was just enamored by Lars and Tim in general, someone told me, "Hey, listen, you have to. I know you're not a bass player right now, but you have to check out Matt Freeman's bass playing. It is out of this world." And man, they weren't lying. What he does at the speed and the velocity that he's able to do it. Plus, he puts in some distortion. He plays chords up the neck too. He does all these things, and he's relentless. He doesn't stop. When I say Lars isn't playing guitar, because he's really kind of the only guitarist in Rancid. When he's not playing guitar, Freeman is doing so much. Watch them live. There's lots of YouTube stuff out there with Matt playing the bass in general. Listen to Rancid 2000. That thing is unbelievable, as is any Rancid album with his bass playing. To me, he's our personal number one, and we do think he's just the best. So, wow, Mark, that's how you make a mother flipping list, my man.
It sure is, Frank. That was a fun one. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. I forgot. We were going to add something, and I forgot to add it into the script. And this is totally on me. We're gonna nudge it back to Red Hot Chili Peppers for 1 second. I want to play a game with you. We're going to try to keep this going through all the records we do. When there is a title track, does the title track hold up?
That's right.
Does it accurately represent the album? If not, what album or what track do you think should have been the title track?
Looking back at this album, I think the title fits appropriately because I think there's all those elements that are represented, especially the sex part, obviously. obviously, I think the way you interpret blood and sugar and magic, it's all up to the individual. But yeah, absolutely. I think it fits. I think the title track fits. I think it fits with the overall tone of the album. It makes sense to me. What about you?
I agree with you. This is a great example of that's the right that song represents the album as a whole, and the title works for the album because it does represent everything.
Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah.
cool track, so that didn't hurt. I think if you call this Under the Bridge, there's a lot of like, what the fuck is going on under that bridge? If you call Give It Away, well, maybe Give It Away works.
Yes.
But I think Blood Sugar Sex Magic has a je ne sais quoi, has
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
that blends well with this album. So we'll try to work that into the album reviews when applicable. Thank you for putting up with me. Now, what I was gonna say is, what are we up to next week?
Yeah, sure. And real quick too, let's not forget that Michael Peter Bizzari, who is Flea, by the way, was also
Oh,
yeah, I know, right? Was also Douglas J. Needles in Back to the Future.
that's right. Fun fact.
Fun fact. So let's not forget that, folks. Anyway, next week, Mark, we are jumping into my phone booth, not yours, mine. And we're going to be taking a trip to Birmingham, 1971, for a Black Sabbath classic, Master of Reality.
Yes. That was really loud. I'm sorry. I haven't been shy about my love for Black Sabbath. I'm so happy we're going to jump into one of my favorites of the Ozzy era. How familiar English is apparently very difficult on top of reading. Are you? How familiar are you with this record, Frank?
So I'm not gonna lie, I'm not familiar with it. I want to listen to more Sabbath. I wanted back in the day to listen to more Sabbath, but it's just one of those things I haven't had a chance in such a busy world and schedule and all that stuff to sit down and really take it in. So I'm excited because it's most of this is going to be new to my ears. I'll probably have heard some in the past, but I'm really excited about this, Mark. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. And it's and it's 71, right? So it's was it 41 years, right?
Yep.
Or no, 51 years. Sorry, I made myself younger. 51 years. That's crazy. Holy cow! Think about that for a second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this thing's older than both of us. Fortunately, not combined.
No. No.
Unfortunately, not combined. Yeah, whatever.
50 years.
I'm
50 years.
Excited about this one. It'll be a good time. We're going to talk about, I'm sure we'll get into some Ozzy shenanigans.
I'm sure.
We'll have a fun little episode lined up for you guys because Sabbath rules. I'm stoked that Frank finally wants to dive into this a little bit more with me.
Yes, I do.
Anything you want to say to our listeners?
If I had to do a parting word, I would say, ciao.
Bye-bye.